Oh, good afternoon.
Yes,
Yes, good
afternoon.
afternoon already.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about autism. Tell me, I know we have the World Health Organization definition, but in your own words, what is autism?
All right, first, I'm not a counselor, I'm an educator.
Yeah.
What is autism? Interestingly, I think the definition captures it exactly as it is because the range of disorders and it will always be characterized by that impediment in behavior, social skill, and communication skills. Um, One thing to note always is that autism is a spectrum, so it will present differently in children. It's just that those things will all those three areas will always be, and imagination will also be affected. So for some people it will be pretty mild. For some it might be. I mean, it actually ranges from mild to severe. So some are quite independent, and some are independent, fully independent, and some are quite dependent. But whichever way, whether it's mild or not, it's important. I mean, why do we even talk about that at all? First, one has to know what it is, and secondly, there needs to be they always need some form of accommodation for effective inclusion in the society.
Okay, you talked about autism being a spectrum. Yes, this definition here by the World Health Organization says autism spectrum. Why is it labeled spectrum? You mentioned it ranges. Give us a picture as to what that means. Why is it a spectrum, and what does a spectrum entail?
Okay, I think one good example is a rainbow. Rainbow is a spectrum, right? So even it looks once you see it, you can see that there are different colors that make up that one entity called the rainbow. And it's the same way in autism spectrum. That's why it's called a spectrum disorder.
Does it mean there are degrees? Is that a meaning of the spectrum here?
Yes. There are degrees. So there are degrees. Secondly, I think it's all not reason I think why it's labeled the spectrum is the fact that it does not it's not uniform. You cannot say, this is exactly, this child, I met one child with autism yesterday, so now I know about autism. Or two children have autism in an environment or in a school or in a house, and like, they will present differently. They'll present differently. So it's that's
so it's unique to each children or a person.
Yes. However, even in its uniqueness, you will still find that impediment in social skill. And now, funny side of social skill is this. So many of them are isolated, which is where the word autism is from. The idea of being isolated, the child stays away. So autism is from the word self. So it's self-isolated. But some of them are not isolated. They actually will interact. However, they are because of their poor social skill, the way they will interact with you might be inappropriate. Inappropriate being how we see it. So you find a child wants to say hello, but would rather come close to you, like so another child will never bother saying hello, will act like you didn't enter the room. So there's still that social skill impediment, but it shows differently in these two children.
Let me talk about the look, or how you can easily tell if a child has autism or is living with autism. I know for Down syndrome, you can tell by the look if you're trained to identify. For autism, can you readily see someone and then know this person has autism?
So it's complicated to say, because for me, to be honest, because I've worked in this space for a long time, I almost can't tell. I might be wrong, but I mean, let me say 70% of the time I'm right. But however, it doesn't show on the face. It doesn't show. I used to say, the show for face. But I remember when I first got into the autism field, I said, is beauty the sign of autism? Like, the child is fine. I'm always like, let's check you out. If you're on the spectrum, because most of the children I met at the beginning, and most of the children I've actually worked with are very, very fine children. However, there are signs that you can readily see. For some of them, especially when it's moderate to severe. You see poor eye contact, so you can almost tell this person is not looking at you. Does that make them autistic? Not necessarily, but at least it's something that says, should I be on the lookout? I mean, and I'm not sure you mentioned that in the definition you gave, but it's a lifelong disorder. So it starts from childhood to the symptoms have to show before age 3, and it's forever. So
Okay.
if you find a child already not showing good eye contact, and then if either because of no therapy or just how they eventually grow up, they still don't show eye contact. And for a child, the child you might miss it that the child's not looking at you, but for an adult to a large extent, if
You
they are
can
not,
tell.
the deliberateness in looking away, you can tell. But that's not very common with the adults, to be honest. Most of the
Okay.
adults I've met or I've watched their videos and I've worked with, they've learned over time to make some form of eye contact, just to connect with you, to say, I'm here, I'm listening to you. So eye contact. The early signs that parents usually complain about, at least in Nigeria, is that the child lost speech or is not talking at the right
The
time.
right time. Okay.
So you find your 2-year-old either was always saying dada, mama before,
Right.
even calling their siblings' names in the house, and all of a sudden there's withdrawal, they are isolating. Isolation is actually one of the very first signs you find in toddlers, because toddlers are not expected to isolate.
To isolate.
They usually want to connect. But you find a toddler isolating, that is a big red flag. So that delayed speech or loss of speech.
Okay, let's talk about the causes. What really are the causes of autism?
So there is no known cause. A lot of research has gone into finding the cause. But while they've labeled many possible things, sometimes the age of the father has been labeled. Genetics definitely play a part, because if in the family there is a child with autism, the rest of the whole family has, I think, about 20% chance of having another child with autism.
Right.
So that, now you see how negligible that is. 20% is even less than having 2 children with SS, right? Sickle cell, right? But still having that chance, and the fact that chance actually, if it's each child, right? So that in some families actually plays out that they have more than one child on the spectrum. So they said, oh, the environment has a part to play.
Okay.
However, there is nothing that can be pinned as the cause. So because of, since the cause is not known, in a place like Nigeria where we don't even do any research about cause, we hardly focus so much on that cause. We focus a lot more on management, interventions, awareness, and inclusion.
Let me talk about, despite, the number of cases of autism we have in Nigeria, this health condition, it's mostly ignored in this part of the world. It's mostly ignored in our country. So it seems there's low awareness. What are you doing? What's your organization doing in terms of bringing the awareness out there so the populace can be informed about it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that our awareness is lower than many parts of the world. However, I think we've come a long way. My first experience working with a child with autism was in 2009. And I remember that, I was still in uni at that time. It was one last strike. So I went back to school and kept saying, like, oh, I work with a child with autism. I work with children with autism. I went to the center, I was very excited. And people were like, what's that? What's autism? Now, you hardly actually, in urban areas, you hardly get, urban and suburbans to a large extent, you hardly get the what is autism idea.
Okay.
However, they just don't know how to identify it.
Okay.
So you still find, despite the old not asking what is autism, because we've heard it before,
Okay.
if a child is showing symptoms of autism, we will still do the let's pray about it. I was speaking about, but really, you say kilo shawai or they say child is spoiled.
Right.
Why? Because our interaction with it is quite low. Not because we don't have many children.
It seems as though spirituality and education has a stronghold in detecting, if a child has autism.
I do shock you that even the very educated people will still do the God forbid, not my child. And I honestly don't blame anybody. I just feel like after the not my child, what next?
Right.
So yeah, how are we doing? So for me, for example, I've been doing awareness since 2012. Okay. I started off by just writing about it.
And how has it been? How's the feedback been so far?
The feedback actually has increased. Before I stopped blogging, my views for my posts, for my blog posts were reaching about 1,000 and more. I remember having about 3,000 views at a point, from everywhere around the world. Right. Even though my content was very Nigeria centered.
Okay.
In 2017, I started a series of conferences, which is called the Specialist Conference. While it is not focused on autism, because autism is just one out of many, Um, and it's not even the only developmental disorder. Cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, also for autism is the issue with autism is that it is invisible. You can't see it. So when you see a child showing a behavior that you don't understand, because we don't understand it, we can then respond in the wrong way. So that's why we miss it out. But that's exactly why we miss out on it. Not necessarily because we don't believe that it exists, but we're like, if you cannot see it, if you cannot test the blood to find it, how then can we actually say it's autism? So that's why I'm doing a lot of awareness. So social media was my initial platform, but over the years I've had opportunities to speak on different platforms, including my own conference. And I'm not the only one. I actually feel like Lagos has so many people speaking on autism, and then a few people scattered around other areas of Nigeria, but our voice is still not loud enough. Our voice is not loud enough. I know in developed countries, one of the things let me use the US for example, and I know about the UK. First of all, their health system recognizes it. So while they're doing all those awareness, so you're not just doing. So when you're doing when children are born, they keep going for immunization and checkup and everything. As early as possible, they also start to check for delays.
I was going to go there about how you can detect. Can it be diagnosed during pregnancy?
No, you can't diagnose.
You can't. No,
at all.
All right.
Of course, autism is not in the blood, like I said.
Oh, okay.
It's not found. Doesn't even the people that do the genetic testing is very expensive. I mean, in developed countries, so that's usually for research. But no, it's not. It can't be found in the womb. Even in the first year, the child begins to show symptoms, but oftentimes people don't pay attention to that until the second year.
From what age can you tell that there's something wrong with this child?
From 3 months, interestingly, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, all those milestone months.
So if you pay attention enough, from 3 to 6 months.
You notice the delay in social skill.
Okay.
So let me give a perfect example. From 2-3 months, children begin to coo and make funny sounds.
Baby sounds.
When you smile at them, they smile back to you. When you find a child not cooing at that early age, that's a red flag. At least it's not any other thing, but that there's a communication disorder.
All right.
If you smile at a 3-month-old, a 6-month-old, 9-month-old, there's what called social smile. So they smile back because whether it's imitation or it's just a response to your love, they're supposed to smile back. Many children with autism will not smile back. Well, now that can also still be missed, but it's one of the early signs that you find. Then over time, people begin to start when they now act, like when people find out that the children are not talking on time and they start asking questions, the doctor now say, "Oh, did you notice the eye contact?" They say, "That's true. He wasn't looking at me." But then all those times we generally still miss those ones. So that smile is definitely
an indicator.
Indicator.
Let me just quickly announce it's 12:30 in the city of Lagos. The program is Health Focus. The station is Unilag 103.1 FM. My name's Adelola. And yes, today I'm talking about autism. What is autism spectrum? All you need to know about autism. My guest is Adelola Edema George, a special needs counselor. And educate you. I thought you said it's not educator.
No, I'm not a counselor, I'm an educator.
Educator, okay, great. Yes. So educator. All right, let's talk about, you're just telling me about the signs and symptoms. Go ahead, please.
So those are the early signs, but over time the signs also begin to change. Some of them are quite hyperactive, while some then you did mention during definition about the behavior, the stereotypic behavior. So you find some children that they don't know how to play with toys. The appropriate play. That's what it's called, appropriate play. So find the child, instead of stacking Legos, for example, the child will arrange, or cars or objects, they will arrange in one place. For communication, children are right early, we also start pointing to what we want. Apart from even talking, we all want that. Find 2-year-olds pointing to what they want. But most children with autism will not point to what they want. They will take your hand to what they want.
Right.
So just like definition says, it affects verbal and non-verbal communication. So while it might affect even if it doesn't affect how they talk, and sometimes it does affect, many times it affects whether they talk or not. That non-verbal communication of pointing, understanding body language, understanding tone of language, as early as they should,
It's non-existent.
yes, it's not there.
Let me talk to you or tell me about how it's been like in your field. You have been in this sphere for the past how many years? You started
12 years
2012, you mentioned.
Yes,
Tell me some of the challenges you faced working in this part, working in this aspect of autism. What are the challenges you've seen from parents, from the society working on autism?
All right, so at the early stage, the ignorance was the major thing, where the effect of the ignorance was that children were being brought. I worked in an autism center. I worked in autism centers at the early stage of my career. I trained in as a behavior therapist, and I still train as a behavior therapist till now. And you find children coming in their teenage years, like 10-year-olds upwards. Interestingly, over time, you find people in their 30s being brought to
in their 30s.
Yes, because of the ignorance, people didn't know.
Right.
People didn't know. So now they were hearing about autism on radio, on TV. At that time, some level of awareness was coming in. So I think it sounds like what my child exhibited as a child. This one sound, because nobody really, when you go for awareness, people hardly talk about the adults, right? We just talk about the children, the children, because that's really where the intervention starts from.
Yes.
So yes, my child showed these symptoms when he was a child. Now he's 15, now he's 20, he's still not talking. Or even if he's talking, but he can tell that his comprehension skill is low. And I don't mean low in terms of not brilliant or anything, but how he processes information that he hears is quite different from how we expect it to be. So the ignorance had an effect. So it meant that people were coming and they were asking for miracles and saying, my child's not talking. Yes, you must make him talk. You must make him do this. So of course, that's why I said awareness actually, because I needed people to know early that if you can find that your child has autism on time, then you can start therapy on time. Because let me mention, early intervention is key. And we say early intervention is key. What are the interventions that?
What does that mean actually? When we say early intervention, what exactly is early intervention?
So I would say that early intervention is in two ways. There's a part of therapy, and I will talk a bit more about that than this one I want to say. There's also the family intervention, where your child, like I said, the first sign when parents see is that your child is not talking. So they just like, oh, he's not talking. They ignore or worry about it. But at least start to engage that child. Label everything around the house. Show them pictures. Do things. So there are things to do at home that fall under intervention. But then there's the therapy intervention, which is there are three primary ones. There are others. So there's behavior therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. There are others on the side like music therapy, play, and art. So many others just to build different skills. But those three build. They're the major three that you see.
Are the cardinal stones.
Yes. So behavior will work not only on the child's behavior, but we'll teach everything teaching things as behaviors. Teaching. So what you need to know, the skill that you lack, you learn it as a behavior. Occupational therapy will teach activities for daily living, and of course, speech therapy will teach communication development. Now, interestingly, it's funny how in some ways the three of them work together to still build all the skills that the child requires: communication skill, behavior, and social skill. But intervention doesn't only start there. Before you even get to that point, what are you doing at home? So early intervention is very key.
All right, let's talk about creating an enabling environment for children or people with autism. How do you think we can create an environment such that we can at least maximize their potential? In Nigeria, for instance.
So I'm an inclusion advocate. I believe strongly that no matter what environment a child with autism finds himself, if he's well accommodated, if there are accommodations for him or her, then inclusion will happen. The child can easily thrive. So what are the things? First of all, is that everything starts at home. At home, you're engaging your child, creating an environment, understanding the child. There's one thing about people with autism that we haven't mentioned. It's called sensory processing disorder.
Okay, what's that?
SPD. So sensory means our senses. Basically, we have 5 basic senses, but then it's more than that. There are about 7 or more. So how we take in information just generally. So we take things in by our eyes, our ears, touch, taste, smell. And interestingly, we know that in our ears, I mean, if you did secondary school biology, you know that in your ears we have something that is for balance. Now, all of those things, they're all part of the senses. So, vestibular and proprioceptive or something like that. That one just twists my tongue all the time. However, so many people with autism are either hypersensitive, so all the information coming into the ears can be too much.
Okay.
And some are hypersensitive, which means that it's not enough. So they are seeking for more. So they will listen, they will put their ears to the floor, seeking for sound, tap on the desk, seeking for more sound. You find them, some don't want touch, some want more touch. Some are sensitive to the clothes that they wear. Now, all of this, so that they light. So these things, in creating a more enabling environment, there needs to be, I mean, this has to be placed in our mind sort of when we're designing our buildings, our malls, our schools. So should our schools be in a place where it's very noisy?
Okay.
No. If for example you're already there and you have a child with autism, what should you do?
Okay.
You can work with professionals to actually set up what they call a sensory corner or sensory room where the child can go and tune out all that. If a child is hypersensitive, right? Child can tune out all the overwhelming sensations that are coming in, or what we call them stimulations. So, and of course, but I should mention that the first thing about enabling environment is acceptance. Knowing that number one, there are people with autism and it's a lifelong disorder. Knowing that you really can't pray it away. Okay. I believe in miracles, and I'm not saying that people have not been miraculously healed if they say they have been. I believe them, I never doubt them. But then those people are 1 in a million. So what happens to the remaining 999,000 people who still need to be accepted as they are and helped along the way? So the first thing is acceptance. The second thing is understanding the needs that they have.
So let me just jump in there. Acceptance here would mean acceptance from both the parents and in the society.
Yes.
Because you find some parents who are stigmatized about having a child who has autism, for instance.
Almost all parents have faced some level of stigmatization. They have children with disabilities, any disability at all. So they are, especially in Nigeria, where we are superstitious as a people. So they're looking at you like, what did you do? Who's doing you?
Right.
So, and then it's like the reason somebody can do you, so the reason somebody can actually do is because they've done something bad.
Okay.
You know, so there's some level of judgment that parents have to fix, and they also judge themselves. They say, what did I do wrong and all that. So so acceptance for them, they recognize that they didn't do anything wrong. That is not their fault. No, nobody's doing them. Autism is just, it's a condition that happens to everybody. Just like you can have, just like nobody having malaria, no one's going to say that you have somebody's doing you because you have malaria, right? So it's the same. Well, malaria cannot be cannot be compared with autism. The honest truth is it's nobody's fault. So yes, so acceptance starts, yes, the family even accepting the child, people accepting the family and supporting the family. And because support ranges from actually being there for them. Sometimes they need money because it's expensive to have a child with special needs in Nigeria. There's no government support, so they have to bear the entire financial burden. So knowing that there are people that can step in for them when, I mean, I'm not saying that they are beggars or anything, but once they know that they have people, or they have someone that can help them babysit if something happens, because some of them can't continue going to work. So so that support, that level of support, and of course creating more inclusive environments, learning how to actually make our schools, our churches, our religious houses, let me put it like that, our workplaces more inclusive. Now, about acceptance, it's interesting how many people, the fact that a person has autism does not mean that they cannot go to school, does not mean that they cannot some of them will actually go through school and be ready to work, or some of them will learn a skill and be ready to work. But the question is, are employers accepting enough to take them in? All of this in acceptance and inclusion.
Acceptance. Let me just dwell a bit more in terms of acceptance. Here I'm looking at from the point of view of the guardians or the parents. How does a parent deal with stigmatization of societal stigmatization of having an autistic child? Is there a support group they can reach out to? What do you think or feel they need to do in terms of handling the stigma that comes with having or living with a child that has autism?
To be honest, the parents are human beings and they will respond differently.
Okay.
The people that have fought for in the whole world, the people that have actually fought for autism, that have advocated the most, fought for their children's schooling, fought for healthcare and all that are parents.
Right.
Parents who decide, do not because of stigmatization cower in and just isolate. Because some of them, I mean, because of their humanness, their response to stigmatization is to hide. But some will say, no, I'm not going to hide. I'm going to fight for myself and fight for my child. So are there support groups? Yes. So some people, whether you want to hide or you want to fight, there are support groups that exist. And I mean, I'm going to mention a few. That at least if you search online, you'll find someone that can. And of course, you send me a message on social media. Adelola Edema George.
Okay.
My Instagram is at Adelola Edema. Facebook is Adelola Edema George, I guess. Twitter is Pdelos.
Okay.
So if you I'll always just link you up with one or two. So there's I know of Warrior Moms. I think that's what it's called. I know of Diary of a Special Needs Mom. That's one. I think all of them cover beyond just autism. So they look at autism and other developmental disorders.
Okay.
There's one by Patrick Speech. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a WhatsApp group.
Okay.
There's Super Parents, which is primarily a Facebook account.
Okay.
Group.
So there's so many support groups.
There's so many.
Parents
like
can
CRI,
be
I
part
can't
of.
remember the full name.
Okay.
So basically,
Right.
the idea is, why do you need support? Because you cannot do it alone.
Okay.
One, two, other people have been in this journey and they've conquered certain things.
Right.
They know what schools your child can go to.
Okay.
Some parents say, oh, my child was rejected here. In that same environment, somebody else has successfully taken their child through school. So that's why it's important to be in a support group. And then if you need someone to fight for you, because our children sometimes get abused.
Yeah, they get bullied.
Yes, so having a support group means that you know that you have people that can help you fight.
Right.
There's a limitation, there's a limit to how much I can help you fight.
True.
But a parent is as angry, if not angrier than you are.
Okay.
So they can help you fight.
Okay, let's talk about some of the challenges, there are in raising or living with a child who has autism. Let's talk about it.
Oh, the first thing is it's different.
Right.
It's different from raising a typical developing child.
Okay.
So that's the first challenge. And there's no manual. So, and like I said, autism is a spectrum. So your child is not like another child. Excuse me. So understanding that child, being patient enough to say, I want to know my child's strength, my child's weaknesses as well, the effect of autism on my child. Of course, how do you start? You start by knowing what autism is and how it presents itself. So you now say, okay, now how does it now present in my own child? While somebody's child's social skill problem is isolation, another child's one, like I said, is being too close. Some children talk quite early, but they take things so literal. So it's funny how I always tell the story of how in a classroom, one child I was working with, he was doing so. I mean, he was so that he was answering a lot of questions. I was very excited. I was like, oh, he's on. So of course, let's say his name is like B. B is on fire. I'm like, no, I'm not on fire. Where's the fire? Where's the fire? Because why? He took it so literally. Okay. Like, where's the fire? Child, I had to tell her, you don't talk like that. So like, oh my God, I forgot. Because they take it literally, right? So knowing now, another child will not even respond because they're not even paying attention to what you're saying. So knowing exactly how it is. And of course, there's also the challenge of the financial implication. In Nigeria, getting a diagnosis can be quite difficult. Why? Because of the structure. I know people that have gone to their pediatricians and they say, don't worry, it's just delay. It will come. Exactly for boys, they'll say, he's a boy now. Boys don't talk early. Meanwhile, this child is 2 years, 3 years old. They're like, boys don't talk early. At 3, he should be talking. It's not normal. I always tell parents that, see, let's even say it doesn't have autism. There's a speech problem, there's a communication and language problem. Right. Let's get a speech therapist to work with your child. At least you don't even need to know what is. Okay. You don't need to have a label to begin to address symptoms.
The issues. Okay.
And like I said, the cost of getting a diagnosis is much. When you now even get a diagnosis, when you start trying to get help, the cost is much. And so parents are dealing with accepting their children, understanding their children, and they have to deal with the financial implication, and then they have to deal with the society. They have to deal with people. They try telling them that, sorry, I can't invite you to my wedding party.
It seems there is just a lot to contend with.
There's a lot to contend with. There is a lot. And people, in Lagos, you're even lucky, you can find a center. If you are in I mean, I don't know. Let me say Ogbomoso, for example. How can a parent in Ogbomoso find? I don't think there's a center in Ogbomoso, to be honest. There might be, but I have never heard of them before. So it means that even getting the help, let's say you even have the money to spend, getting the help that you need, and then the guarantee. Here we don't have regulations. I mean, anybody regulating expertise and people, professionals. So they're not registered anywhere. So at the end of the day, anybody can come and lie to you and say that they are. So the fear also of being duped is also something you have to contend with. But I don't want to only say problems, because while that's a lot to deal with, I've also seen parents say that, see, I took all that problem, I look at it, what is the solution? First of all, I need to understand my child.
Okay.
I understand my child needs. I need to know what my child needs. So yes, so this is speech therapy. I might not be able to. I need to know what speech therapy entails, so that in case a speech therapist comes and says nonsense, I know that this person should not be the one to work with my child. I know what behavior therapy entails. I mean, and while there are different kinds of behavior therapy techniques, the most common, especially in Nigeria, is what they call applied behavior analysis. Okay, so how do I get a qualified ABA practitioner? Or is it a teach practitioner, or rather how do I confirm that this person has training in teach? So that parents are educating themselves actually empowers them. And to be honest, most of the parents I've met that are in support groups have some level of power or confidence, knowing that they are not alone, and they can always confirm that who their child is working with is the right person. They can confirm.
They can even refer to other parents.
Oh, definitely they can refer to.
Okay, let me just announce quickly. It's 12 minutes to 1 in the city of Lagos. The program is Health Focus on Unilag 103.1 FM. My name's Adelola. I'm talking today about autism. What is autism? How do you know if a child is autistic? What are the signs and symptoms? How do you manage living with someone who has autism? My guest today is Adelola Edema, a special needs educator, and she's here live in the studio with me to talk about autism. Let's talk about, the good sides, the bright side of these children. I know a good number of them. I've heard that some of them, have gone ahead to progress to be, to greater heights, doing amazing things. Tell me about some of the strength of these children.
All right, you mentioned when you're reading the definition about the attention to focus. So quite a number of children with autism pay attention to details. So they focus on certain details that we don't see. So because of, and they can be also quite stereotypic. So in the sense that this is what they like. It might be a problem to us. For example, you want to have a conversation with a person and all they want to talk about is football. Everybody else wants to talk about music or something. So because of that attention to detail and sometimes that stereotypic behavior, many of them are able to build skills in that direction. So you find them being good in, quite a number of them are good in mathematics.